Hey everybody, Ray here. Today we're looking at two mid-rangers from Samsung, the Galaxy C7 and the C5. So if you're one of those who think spending more than $700 on a smartphone is a little bit of crazy, and you can't figure out why you need those cutting-edge hardware, but you do think Samsung's in-house exclusive functions will bring you better experience, then the C5 and the C7 pack some mid-range specifications with Samsung's latest and greatest software, also with decent build quality. Speaking of the build quality, not only do they share the same design language, but also the metal chassis. They are exceptionally cool to touch with just only 6.7mm thin. While the volume rocker and the power button share the same design as the S7. Also, unlike most other phones with metal unibody, the sides here on the C5 and the C7 are left flat and straight. Cooperating with the slightly rounded edges on the back, the phone is not as slippery as you guys may think. They're actually quite comfortable to hold indeed. Then we have the fingerprint sensor. They are not the fastest sensor I've seen, but they give comparable performance to the S7. And mind you, they are capable of dual SIM configuration or microSD expansion. It does take up one SIM card slot, so you have to choose either inserting a microSD card or a SIM card. There are also some downsides as usual. There's a plastic frame between the glass panel and the metal body itself, and sadly still no USB Type-C. And if you are picking up the rose gold edition, the black frame surrounding the display before it meets the white main panel is surprisingly huge. Meanwhile, the black one does not have the same issue, so overall the design is nothing special, nothing inspirational, but as a mid-ranger, the build quality is top-notch. And as I've mentioned before, both the C5 and the C7 share the latest software from Samsung, so it functions as the latest flagship offers as long as the user interface is identical to the one on the S7. Here we have the notification drawer. The quick setting toggles can be easily rearranged just like we did on the S7. We are also getting the one-handed operation on such a massive 5.7 inches phablet is handy. Floating windows and multi-windows are also here. Third-party apps compatibility is also identical to the S7. Surprisingly, we can even switch on ultra-high quality upscaler and modify the audio output via Adapt Sound, which was exclusive to Samsung's flagship offers, so yeah, I said it was. And even Game Center is here and is fully functional. We can disable the hardware navigation button while playing games and even capture screen recording with a front-facing camera on. So basically, what we've got on the S7 is here. So we've got all those functions here. The problem is, can they operate as smooth as we want? I was actually thrilled by their performance, especially for the C5. Unlike the A series I've reviewed before, this time around the system runs much smoother even on a slightly lower end Snapdragon 617 powered C5. Apps opening is blazing fast with buttery smooth animations. For the Snapdragon 625 powered C7, I even felt like I was using my S7 Edge. The system is super responsive. I know those are my personal subjective comments on them, so here we have the apps opening speed test. Due to every single device that is tested are running the same app list, we can compare the performance apple to apple, but this time around Samsung to Samsung. I was actually right. For the first round, the C7 finished even 8 seconds ahead of the S7. For the second round, both of them were able to keep all those apps and games in memory, so multitasking is not a problem at all. However, as you guys can see here, the C7 is around 20 seconds faster than the C5, so that's the difference between them. It applies to gaming experience as well, so the C7 would be the better pick if you consider its processing power. Then we have the cameras. On papers, they are identical. A 16 megapixel shooter with an f1.9 aperture. Function-wise, we have got HDR, night mode, as well as pro mode. But sadly we won't have manual shutter speed and white balance on these two mid-rangers. So here we have some pictures taken with the Z5 and the C7. Actually, they take identical quality photos, but they are not comparable to the S7 Edge. Details are good, but not great, even in the broad daylight. And colors are not as sharp, anyway the white balance is on point most of the time. While as the sun goes down, digital noise comes in as usual. Clarity also drops significantly that it tells immediately the C5 and the C7 are mid-rangers. So if you need a better camera, the S7 Edge is here. Then, unlike the camera, even though we are getting a 1080p Super AMOLED display on the C5 and the C7, the quality of the display is extraordinary. They go super bright, the viewing angle is also brilliant, and they are as vibrant as the S7. Also, as I've mentioned before, it's got all functions from the S7, so we can switch to different display modes up to personal preference. And then we have the single speaker on the bottom edge. They are loud, but mist and highs are not quite clear. Still, it would be adequate for day-to-day media consumption. Last but again certainly not least, we have the battery life test. The 3300 mAh battery powered C7 together with its 14nm processor. The battery life is way better than satisfactory, while on the C5, acceptable average. So the C5 and the C7, maybe the design is not inspirational, but the build quality is excellent considering their price tags. Day-to-day media consumption on both of them is a breeze. The new TouchWiz has improved a lot this time around with all those features we have seen on the S7. The display, not the best on papers, but absolutely an amazing one in real life. However, the camera, not comparable to flagship offers, and this is probably the major downside of the C series.